Locations in the comments. Give me locations in the comments as y'all are coming in. We will get started in a moment. Make sure we got everything working the way it's supposed to here. Give me locations in the comments as y'all are coming in. As you all are coming in, I'll remind everybody, Power Presence Protocol is active. It is out. Our challenge is starting on November 10th. You want to skip the challenge and get straight into the mastermind, because I'm going to tell you right now, at the end of the challenge, we're going to offer you an opportunity to get into the mastermind. You want to get into the mastermind, that's where I am your direct coach. We're going to coach you on mastering all of the things that are going to be activated in the challenge, all about commanding attention, shifting the energy, and leaving an imprint on other people before you speak a single word. That is what the Power Presence Protocol is all about. And the action steps that happen once you do start speaking and you do begin actually doing things. How do you make sure that 85% of communication that is nonverbal is actually landing the right way? That's all inside of the Power Presence Protocol. That link is in my profile or in the pinned comment or in the description, whichever app you are looking at me on right now. So y'all will see that. Put your locations in the comments here, folks. Locations in the comments, and we will get started. Today we are talking about the layoffs. There have been massive layoffs happening in America. They didn't all happen in one day, but everybody's talking about it right now. So as you all know, we talk about current events here. So since this is what people are talking about, one thing people are talking about, we're going to talk about it here today. So as you are coming in again, shout yourselves out in the comments. Where are we? Locations in the comments. So we are live on Rumble. Good morning, Rumble. Live on YouTube. Good morning, YouTube. Let me check and make sure we are active on X. Yes, we are live on X. Good morning. We are live on LinkedIn. And did I miss one? Yeah, live on LinkedIn. So those 4 platforms, my name on each one is at Dre All Day. So if you use LinkedIn, just look me up at Dre All Day, or just my name, Dre Baldwin. On YouTube, Rumble, X, you all know how to use those. Just type in Dre All Day. You'll see me. We are live on Facebook.com/Work on Your Game University for Facebook users. Building up our new page, Lifeguard 2301 from Mississippi. Good morning to you over there. And we're live on Instagram is at Dre Baldwin, and on TikTok it is at Work on Your Game. So as I was telling you all about this Power Presence Protocol, those of you who work in the business world, it's all about projecting authority, controlling attention, earning trust instantly, so that you can build that power presence. You can make more sales, close more deals, get more things done, again, before you even start talking. You want to move like a leader, speak with control, and draw respect before you start speaking. Power Presence Protocol. Attract respect, opportunities, influence, and project influence by the way you show up, not just what you say. All of that is in the Power Presence Protocol. So all these things that I'm saying are all part of the protocol. And I'm going to shout a few people out in who have given their locations. One second. All right, locations in the comments. Let me shout a few people out here on this Thursday morning, October 30th. We finally got a cool morning down here in South Florida. It's about 70 this morning when I was outside running, which is great weather for running because the humidity after you running at 80 something morning humidity of South Florida, 70 degrees is like walking. It's not even, it doesn't even feel hard. So running in the fall is easy if you did all the work in the summertime. I did the work in the summertime. So running in the fall is super easy for somebody like myself. We finally getting some cool weather here. So if it's cool here, I look at the weather damn near every day. And I noticed that when it gets cool down here, it's cold everywhere else. So I know you all have already gotten it if you're not in South Florida. 140.6. Good morning, Walnut Creek, California. Annie AFF from Kentucky. Linda Gale from St. Louis. Murphy the Mutt, Bristol, Tennessee. Leah, thank you for the heart early on. And congrats on the gifted badge. Mighty Soul, San Antonio. Good morning. Carol Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Leah, thank you for the Go Popular. The Teresa Trinker visiting Tulsa this week. Shout out to Oklahoma. Marky Man from Sacramento. Good morning, Leah. Good morning, Marlo, Indiana. Angela, Rocky Mount, North Carolina. L. Johnson from Union, New Jersey. Sarah L. from Naples, Florida. Shout out to Naples. Shout out to the west side of Florida. Thank you for the DJ glasses, Leah. Quail Ridge from Lincoln, California. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the house. Ashley, good morning from PA. Michelle in Texas. Good morning, Ashley. Thanks for the heart. Giga Dad, still rainy in North Carolina. Mindy in Iowa. Good morning. Sheila said, waking in PR today from LA. Is that Puerto Rico? Shout out to Puerto Rico. Oh, and shout out to LA. Shout out to everybody on the West Coast. Anybody on the West Coast checking in early. Beansy11. Thank you for the follow. Nikki, thanks for the follow. Big Shot, Milford, Connecticut. American, thank you for the rose. Miss Bray, 923 from LaGrange, Georgia. Jewel 0309 checking in from Miami. Shout out to Miami. Shout out to Wynwood, Brickell, downtown, Kendall. Everywhere else in Miami, I can't think of all the neighborhoods. South Beach, of course, South Beach. Can't forget about them. Mastery Yeats, Democrat governors of Oregon and Washington. What does that have to do with this topic? Linda Morris from Atlanta, Georgia. Sheila, that's Puerto Rico. Shout out to everybody in Puerto Rico. Beansy, North Carolina. Nathan Don, thank you for the rose. Michelle said 42 degrees in San Antonio. That's too cold for me. Happiness Now, checking in from Atlanta. So the topic here today, we're talking about these, and Grace Bristol from North Carolina. We're talking about the layoffs. There have been massive layoffs happening in the United States. Again, this didn't all happen in one day, but this is just the thing that is on a lot of people's minds, at least. Actually, that's not true. This is a thing that is trending active on my feed on social media. That's what I'll say. And there's a lot of people talking about it, and the people talking about it are influential people. So I think it's leading other people to think about it. Raul Pagan from Lakeland, Florida. Good morning. So the U.S. job market is flashing early warning signs of structural stress. This looks like structural stress. It's a good alliterative statement there. Through September of this year, this is just through September. It's not even counting the month of October because we don't have a jobs report yet. Companies announced roughly, this is all together, 946,000 layoffs. It's damn near 1 million people got laid off from their job. And if you know anything about layoffs, you know if you get laid off, you might not come back. This might just mean you're done at that job, that they're letting you off easy. You're laid off from the job. And the way they do it, it maybe opens you up for unemployment possibilities, etc. This number, 946,000 layoffs, is up 55% from the same time period as last year. Last year in September, 55% fewer layoffs happened. So the layoffs are up. People are getting replaced. Jobs are being replaced. And the tech sector alone has shed about 176,000 of these jobs at 585 firms. So that's about a quarter of the jobs that come from the technology sector. Major employers who are contributing to this include UPS. They deliver packages. Y'all know that. Amazon, also delivering packages. Intel, technology company. We're going to talk about why those matter in a minute. Executives cite strategic pivots. Yeah, of course, there's a strategic pivot if you fire somebody or you lay them off. This is the proverbial, we have chosen to go in a different direction. All of you have heard that before, right? So that's a strategic pivot. We chosen to go in a different direction. The direction we were going is you work here, and the new direction is you don't work here. That's a new direction. Strategic pivots, AI automation. All of us have heard about that, and you should be paying attention. Efficiency drives, which basically means, let's say if we can get the same job done by fewer people and thus lower payroll. And global supply chain shifts as the rationale. In other words, how do we get our product from there to here from where it starts at, the origination point of our products, even the raw materials. How do we get it into the hands of the customer with less effort and less friction? Well, let's cut out some people out of that process. It's pretty much what happens. And analysts point to the post-scamdemic hiring boom correcting itself. So some analysts are trying to throw some cold water on this and saying, hey, after the scamdemic, a bunch of people got hired after that was over because a lot of people needed jobs at that time. And now it's just quieting down. So actually we're just getting back to the baseline. That's what some people are saying. So there are different ways of looking at this. Rising tariffs. Some people are trying to blame the Trump tariffs. I don't blame the Trump tariffs because the real effects of the Trump tariffs are not really going to be felt for a couple of years. You don't really start feeling it immediately. Some people may, but long-term tariffs need some time to actually prove themselves. And offshoring as underlying causes. So there's a lot of different things that contributed to what's happening here. What we're really going to be talking about is what is happening and what is going to be the after effect for people who are feeling the result of getting laid off right now. Not necessarily all the contributing factors, as there are many of them. This is a multivariate situation, which I've talked about in the past. Multivariate situation means you cannot pin any of this on one particular thing. It's not just AI. It's not just Donald Trump. It's not just the economy's bad. It's not just inflation. It's not just technology shifts. It's not just automation. It's not just one thing. It's several things all contributing in different ways, interconnectedly, working with each other that leads to these outcomes. A lot of people want to simplify it, make it seem like there's only one thing causing it because that makes it easier to have a person you can blame or a situation or a circumstance you can blame for it. This is where you get your politicians. You get your Bernie Sanders says all the billionaires that are causing the issue. No, that's not true. But they like to do that because most people don't want to think. But this is a multivariate challenge. So we're going to break it down at least on some of those variables here today. And again, about the results of it. The unemployment rate. Despite these layoffs, interestingly enough, the unemployment rate remains about the same as it was, 4.3%. So about 4.3% of employable people don't have jobs. So 96% of people still have jobs. But the magnitude of the job cuts, combined with the CEO pay exploding, again, people always have to throw this in there, CEO pay, it creates a credibility gap where workers are wondering, these are the laid off people and the people who are not laid off, if the boards can afford massive pay for the CEOs and the C-suite, and they can afford automation, which is basically replacing the people, why are we losing jobs? So this is the wrong question, first of all. If automation is happening, that means people are going to lose jobs. That's the very point of automation, is removing people from the process. When you automate something, then you automate something that was previously done by a human being. That means the human no longer has to do the work. Now the system can do the work, and that makes it more efficient because systems are more efficient than human beings, generally speaking, as long as the system is put together properly. And systems don't need healthcare. Systems don't go on lunch breaks. Systems don't go to the bathroom. Systems don't have kids. Systems don't have to make it to their kids' soccer game at 6 o'clock. Systems don't have bad days. Systems don't argue with their coworkers. Systems don't need to hang in the coffee room and make coffee. Systems don't have all these problems that human beings have. So the automation that companies are paying for is designed to get rid of people. So as soon as you see your company going into automation, they're trying to get rid of people like you and maybe even up to and including you. But we're going to get into all that. This is just an introduction. Let me introduce myself for those who don't know me. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our focus over here these days is on the Power Presence Protocol. If you're watching on TikTok, you see the manual right there above my shoulder. Power Presence Protocol is all about helping you close more deals, commanding instant respect, and leading with authority before you speak. Power Presence Protocol is essentially about the 85% of communication that is nonverbal that makes the other 15% of your communication work that much easier because 85% of the work is already done. You understand what that means? That's what the Power Presence Protocol is about. The program is now out. Our first challenge is going to be starting on November the 10th, which is a week from Monday. So this upcoming Monday is November the 3rd. The next Monday, November the 10th, is when we start our 5-day challenge. Anybody can get in. We're asking you for an hour, 60 to 90 minutes of your time every day, starting at 11:30. I think it's either 11 or 11:30, but go on the website. It'll show you. Go to the link in my profile. It'll tell you. On the back end of that challenge, we're going to offer you an opportunity to join the mastermind. That's where you get coached directly by me on making all these things real, not just knowing them and understanding them, but making them real and implementing them and implanting them into your subconscious so it becomes part of your normal mode of operation. That is all at powerpresenceprotocol.com. You can see that link in my profile. You want to learn more about that. So getting into the topic here today. These layoffs are signaling several things. Depending on who you ask, you can get different answers. None of them are necessarily right or wrong. It's just how do people want to look at this? They signal a correction in sectors that overhired after the virus, or after that mass psychosis that we called a pandemic. All right. The context is after the lockdown, a bunch of companies did a whole bunch of hiring. So after the lockdown was over, there's a lot of people who didn't have jobs and a lot of companies that just couldn't employ people because they couldn't operate. So after all that was over, companies went out and just started hiring a bunch of people. So technical firms did a whole bunch of hiring. Logistic companies did a whole bunch of hiring. And these firms are now saying, okay, we hired a little bit too many people then for our needs now. So some of those people got to go. So then they just start looking at their payroll and they start looking at who works there and they decide who is essential and who is not. And they start cutting people who are not essential. That's pretty much what's happening. Again, this is one way of looking at it. Firms are trimming back to sustainable levels and they're repositioning their businesses based on the fact that we know artificial intelligence is coming. And artificial intelligence is going to replace a lot of low-level human intelligence. So any of you as a human, if you do brain work, any of you who does work that is based on just thinking and knowledge, if your knowledge work is something that is easily taught and easily duplicated, and a computer could do it, if someone would just program the computer to do it, AI is coming for your job. You should probably already know this. Maybe it already has come for your job, but if you haven't thought about it, you should consider this. This is happening. I think everybody pretty much understands this. And if you're doing any kind of job, even if it's manual, such as driving a UPS truck or dropping off Amazon packages, and the job is doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it doesn't require any real intelligence on your part, it just requires a warm body to execute the process, like cooking hamburgers on the grill at Wendy's. Now, you're going to be replaced by a computer pretty soon. And there's going to be a computer connected to a robot that actually can do your job. That's coming. I told you about this a few weeks ago. There's this company that made this, in fast food restaurants, they make fries and onion rings. They have the fryers. There's a company who created an automated robot-based fryer. And basically what it does, I talked about this a few weeks ago. Let me see if I can find it. It was a few weeks ago I was talking about this, and let me see if I can pull it up again. I'm going to give you this as an example. And I forgot the name of it because I pulled it up a few weeks ago. Let me see. What is the name of that automated fryer machine that is going into fast food restaurants that can now make fries and onion rings, et cetera, and is basically going to remove the need for people working on that part of the back of a fast food restaurant? I saw this in an email, this email that I get every day called, it was either the Deep View or one called The Hustle. And they both talk about technology and AI and automations and new stuff happening in the technological sector. And I saw it in one of the emails that they send out. I don't even read the email every time it comes out. I got to catch up on like 50 of them at a time. But when I was catching up on the email, I saw this and I said, this is the first step. First step is they're going to replace the people who do the fries and the onion rings. The next step, they're going to replace the people who make the burgers. The next step is they're going to replace even putting the drinks in a cup. You already got the machine to put the soda in the cup. So you go to a restaurant, not a restaurant, but a fast food place, McDonald's, and you order a Coke. Well, somebody still has to grab the cup and put it under the machine and push it against the little button so the soda comes out, and they got to put the lid on it and give you a straw. Somebody's working on a robot right now that will do all of that so that a human doesn't even have to be involved. So you push the button for the Coke and you pay. It comes out in a cup with a lid and a straw, and no human is involved in the process. That's coming next. So this machine is called the Flippy 2. It's made by a company called Miso Robotics. It's called the Flippy 2. Those of you who never heard of it, now you've heard of it. This is the first step in replacing anybody who does rote, continual, same thing, same way every single time, manual labor. So don't think the AI is limited to knowledge labor. It is not. It will act. Next step is manual labor. Same things over and over again. Example, go into a CVS or a Walgreens or a Whole Foods grocery store or a Publix or whatever local grocery store you have. What do you see? Automated checkouts. Well, not automated checkouts, self-checkouts. What is a self-checkout? Instead of the person grabbing your eggs and swiping them across the board, you do it. You bag your own groceries, you pay for it, and you leave. Well, what got eliminated? The person. the worker, the cashier got eliminated. And eventually what's going to happen is those machines are going to get better and better and better. And it will be less chance of, what do we call it? Shrinkage, i.e. people not paying for shit when they do the self-checkout. They're going to get better at fixing that. And they're going to eliminate all the cashiers. Next thing they're going to do is eliminate the people who put the stuff back on the shelves. So those of you who don't know, at the end of the day at a grocery store, a lot of stuff needs to be replenished because people bought all the stuff all day. There are people who work overnight in grocery stores and replenish the shelves. Eventually, there will be robots that replenish the shelves. That will happen automatically. There won't be any people doing that. And y'all see where this is going. Amazon delivery drivers replaced. UPS drivers replaced. United States Postal Service, they may fight for a while because it's the government, but they're going to be replaced. All this is going to be replaced. Anything that's done by a human being that is the same thing over and over and over again, doesn't require you to really think to do the job. You can just teach somebody how to do it. Anybody could do it. It doesn't require any specialized knowledge or a college degree or anything. It's getting replaced by AI. So people losing their jobs, this makes sense. The job, actually, they're not actually losing their job. There is no job. The job no longer exists. So you didn't lose the job. The job just got removed. So don't take it personal. Hard to say when somebody just got laid off, but you get the direction of what I'm saying. Now, job losses this size will ripple beyond those laid off. We talked about this a couple days ago. When people get laid off in this way, I'm not saying this is as if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing. Everything that happens in life is just a thing. There are no good things or bad things. Everything's neutral. How you decide to look at it, your framing of it determines whether it's good or bad in your mind and what kind of memory you have of it. People losing these jobs is going to have a ripple effect on everyone's economy, because if 1 million people don't have a job anymore, let's just say that's 1 million people making $50,000 a year. So if 1 million people are making $50,000 a year, that's a whole lot of discretionary income. Not all of it's discretionary, of course. Some of that money people use for food, clothing, shelter. But there's a whole lot of discretionary money, leftover money, that is now not available to spend because those people don't have jobs anymore. The companies, instead of paying out 10 people $50,000, they just saved $500,000. That's 50,000 times 10. They take that 500,000, invest it into their AI, their technology, their automation. They still have 300,000 left over. What do they do with that? They keep that as profit in their company, and that goes to the CEO, the C-suites, and the companies that are selling them the AI technology. Now, could they possibly spend that money discretionarily themselves? Yes. But are they going to spend it the same way as the 10 people who got fired from their $50,000 a year job? No, which means the people who own businesses that were serving those 10 people who now got laid off from their jobs, their business is going to be affected in some way. Does everybody understand how these downstream effects, when these layoffs happen? So there are downstream effects that are going to affect everybody, even if you're not directly affected by the layoff. You didn't get laid off because you own a shoe shine place around the corner, but the people who used to be your customers, they don't have a job anymore, so they don't need to shine their shoes. Also, they don't have any money because they don't have a job. So they're not your customers anymore. So now you're losing customers. Now, what do? You have to make an adjustment. So all of these downstream effects, you won't really feel these till years later. They don't always happen immediately. People talk about them immediately, but they don't happen immediately. So this is going to impact things like this overall consumption. People may be canceling their cable TV. Maybe you'll lower your internet package. Just yesterday, I was talking to an internet company. I have for me to do these, like what I do here, I'm streaming on 7 different platforms right now on multiple devices. I got 1,000 megabyte internet, which is the best one that any company offers. Some people might downgrade their internet from 1,000 megabytes to 500 megabytes. All right, they might not get that new iPhone yet. Let's just hold on to the old iPhone until we get the next iPhone. I'm still on the iPhone. What is this that I have? My actual phone, my active phone, I think is an iPhone 13. So maybe I'll get the 17 this year. Maybe I'll wait till the 18 comes out. But some people may just hold on to their phones until you get a new phone. I didn't get laid off. I just didn't get a new phone because I didn't see a need to do so. But all of these things, people may stop going to the movies. Maybe there'll be one less vacation this year. We usually go on 3 vacations. Now we only going to go on 2. We used to go on 2. We only going on 1. We used to go on 1. Now we're not going on any. All right. Now we'll just watch TV from home. So maybe cut back on a Netflix subscription. All of these things downstream happen when this many people are getting laid off at the same time. And I'm bringing these things up because the things that people spend their discretionary income on, this is outside of food, clothing, shelter, outside of your essentials, the money that you have left over, the stuff you spend it on. If you are losing your job and now you got to go off savings, or you're not sure where you're going to get another job, or you do get another job, but instead of 50 grand, you're making 40 grand. Okay. You can't do the same things. And the people who sell to those people, like, I'm an entrepreneur, the people who sell to those people who now have to tighten their purse strings, that's going to affect their business. And there's a lot of fixes for this. Of course, there are solutions to every problem. It wouldn't be a problem if there wasn't a solution. I'm not sure everybody wants to hear the solution, though. Solution I tell to entrepreneurs is sell to people who don't have these problems. Long story short. But it doesn't mean that these people don't exist, and it doesn't mean they don't have problems. So the job of fixing those people's problems, at least what a lot of people think, is that of politicians. Problem is, you depend on politicians to solve your problems. You're eventually going to be very disappointed. I suggest to everybody, I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I've been talking about this for 10 years. Everybody eventually is going to be on some level an entrepreneur. Everybody. On some level, everyone's going to be an entrepreneur, meaning you want to have something that you own and control, something that has unlimited income potential. Doesn't mean it makes unlimited income, but it has unlimited income potential. And employment with a salary doesn't have unlimited income potential because there's a certain max amount of money you can make. You know exactly what it is. When you run a business, you have unlimited income potential because there's no ceiling, there's no salary cap on entrepreneurship, and there's no salary cap on investing. You got to get on that side of the equation. We talked about this a good amount yesterday. That's the long-term answer for everybody. Short version of the long-term answer. I'm not going to get into too deep right now. Now, continuing, automation and AI. These are real accelerators of job cuts. They are not just cost-cutting theater. Like, people are really getting fired because of these things. So Intel, for example, Intel is a company that makes the computer chips to make your devices work. They make all the chips. They cited, quote, a shift in business model toward automated manufacturing, close quote, as part of their 20,000 job reduction plan. I want to let that quote sink in. I'm going to say it again. Intel is the company. Many of you have heard of Intel. They're the company who makes the computer chips to make your iPhones, iPads, laptops, etc. work. They make the computer chips. These little tiny things that have the knowledge of a whole library, and they make decisions as fast as human beings do, maybe even faster, actually faster. This is what they said. A shift in business model toward automated manufacturing. Long story short, instead of having humans do the manufacturing, they have computers doing the manufacturing, which makes sense because they're a computer chip company. So if anybody's going to be first toward removing humans and having a system do it via computers, then Intel should probably be one of the first ones doing it. So this makes perfect sense. As a result of this perfect sense, 20,000 people don't have a job anymore. That's what happened. Please keep liking the live over there on TikTok. We're at 16,000 likes here today. So a little bit lower than we're usually at by this point. Please keep liking the live on TikTok. We do 100,000 likes a day over here. Tap the screen, everybody. If you're watching on TikTok, tap the screen to like the live. Let's get up to 20,000 likes, please, so we can make sure we hit our 100,000 goal, our normal daily baseline 100,000 likes over here on TikTok. Stephen Albert, thank you for the gifts coming through. I see you. So 20,000 people don't have a job anymore. And those 20,000 jobs, again, it's not like 20,000 people got fired from one job, then these 20,000 go work somewhere else. People make career pivots all the time. What's happening here is that the job no longer exists. So there is no job for these people. Doesn't mean that none of them is ever going to have a job again. But the job that they were doing at this company, that job is not a thing anymore. So these people are going to have to go work either with a different company who hasn't caught up to where Intel's at yet doing the same job, or they're going to have to learn and develop some new skills and do a completely different job, the complete career pivot. And this is going to happen to a whole lot of people as these jobs get eliminated. Again, starting with AI, then automation, eventually is going to move into manual labor jobs. Construction eventually is going to get hit by this. When there are computers and robots that can build buildings and you don't need construction workers anymore, that's another level. Think how much money that saves on payroll, because construction actually pays pretty well for that manual labor. But what about when there's computers that can build a building? Then what happens? When computers can build a building, what happens then? All right, it changes everything. So again, I'm not going to get too deep into this just yet. Now, automation also raises political and social risk. If large employers quickly replace a bunch of human beings with machines, which is happening, public backlash and regulatory pressure may ramp up. Now, this is where it gets interesting. This is where you start to have these fundamental difference conversations, whereas nobody is right nor wrong. There's a fundamental difference between what one person thinks and what another person thinks. So you're going to get arguments over, is it okay for a company to go from 500,000 staff nationwide, Amazon, to 100,000 staff nationwide? They just laid off 400,000 people, yet they haven't lost a single dollar, despite the fact they laid off 400,000 people. They get to keep more of their money. They don't have to pay those 400,000 people anymore. Those people get no money, don't have a job at all, and the owner of the company just gets more rich, and the investors just get more rich. This is the Jeff Bezoses and the owners at Amazon. Is that okay? This is where Bernie Sanders makes his money, by the way. It's not a right or wrong question. It's a morality question, really, is what it comes down to. This is where your Zoran Mamdanis and your AOCs and your Bernie Sanderses and many others, this is where they make their money. And this argument right here, bringing this argument up, and there's a bunch of people who agree with them. And also, they're saying, and others are saying, that maybe regulatory pressure may start to come in, i.e., what some are suggesting is that the government may get involved and say, hey, companies, you can't fire that many people that fast. You can't do it. That this may become a legal situation to where the courts are saying to Amazon and Walmart and Whole Foods, or Whole Foods is owned by Amazon, or any other company, saying, hey, you can lay off a certain amount of people, but you can't lay off that many. You can't lay off any more than that in a calendar year. You can't lay off more than 10,000 people a year, or you can't lay off more than 50,000 people in a quarter. That kind of stuff may come from the government if there's enough pressure. Now, this would probably have to come from a liberal-leaning government, i.e., President, House of Representatives, Senate. Congress would have to be liberal-leaning, liberal-controlled, and there probably had to be a liberal president for something like this to happen. And that is not beyond the realm of possibility. You conservative MAGA supporters who are listening to this, is not beyond the realm of possibility that could happen as early as 2028. President's until 2028. 2026 is the midterms, we all know. That could happen, though, to where companies are forced to not fire a certain amount of people based on just whatever rules they decide to come up with. And again, if Congress is on the left and the president's on the left, they can push this stuff through. It's not going to be automatic, like snap of a finger, but they can pretty much push it through. And the Republicans won't be able to stop them if they have control. And there's enough public sentiment and support behind this. Because, listen, Republicans got jobs too. So this is something to think about. The problem with this is, there's a fundamental issue with this, is that the government should not be telling a business how to operate, what it can and cannot do. The government starts getting involved in trying to control the markets and saying, well, the market can only go this much, this direction, but it can't go any further than that. That's when you start to get a much bigger issue. The United States, not the United States anymore. Even though I'm saying that, I'm also reiterating it is not beyond the realm of possibility. This could happen. As more and more people lose their jobs and more people are having something to say about this, not having their jobs anymore, this absolutely could become an issue. So something to keep an eye on, and listen to your politicians. Listen to your elected representatives in Congress. Some of them are already talking about this. So labor advocates, they point to CEO to worker pay gaps as evidence of inequitable value capture. There's another thing that you may see coming out of a left-led Congress. If there is a Democrat president, you will start to hear this more loudly and more forcefully. Right now, there's only so much they can do because all they can do is talk. But I would say this will come from the political left. It won't come from the right. It will come from the left. They're going to look at the pay that the CEO is making. They'll look at the people getting laid off. They'll look at the pay of the people who still work there. And they'll say, how is this possible? Why is this allowed? Why is this legal? Let's create some laws so that this can't happen. So Jeff Bezos, you can only make up to a certain amount of money every year as a CEO. Investors, you can only get a certain amount of dividends as shareholders. And this number of people have to work at any company that's making this much money. If your company makes this much money or more, you got to have at least this many people employed, and they all got to be making at least this much money. This is the living wage argument. But I'm talking on a much bigger scale. I'm saying they'll make noise about this. Now, would they be able to push this through as well? I'm not quite so sure. But are you going to hear people saying this? My answer is absolutely, especially if a couple things happen. 3 things. Number one, if Zoran Mamdani wins the New York election on Tuesday, New York City mayoral election on Tuesday, that's the biggest city in the United States. All right, that is a one domino getting knocked down. Number two, if the Democrats get control of Congress in 2026 in the midterms. And number three, if the Democrat wins the presidential election in 2028. If those three things all happen, you're going to hear more about this. I'm not saying it's going to happen, that people are they're going to be able to force something like this, because that would be crazy. If that happens, it'd be crazy. The government gets to tell Amazon, here's how much you're allowed to pay your CEO, and here's how much you have to pay your workers, and here's how many workers you have to have employed because of how much money you make. I'm not saying that's going to occur, but you're going to hear a lot more chirping about it if the Democrats actually have political power. Right now, they don't have political power. They only have power to kind of slow things down and gum up the system. They can't actually make anything happen right now. But if they get to a position where they can make things happen, you're going to hear about this a lot more in a lot more detail, and we'll be talking about it again if and when those things occur. I think the first of those three dominoes is about to fall on Tuesday. New York City go up. 2026, 2028, we don't know yet. Too early. Now, strong firms announcing large cuts while reporting high profits shows the business logic of competitive survival. So there are big firms out there that are well known. They are firing a bunch of people, but their CEOs are making more and more money. This is the gap that, again, Bernie Sanders built his whole career on this. CEOs are making this much money. The workers are getting fired at this rate. How is this possible? How is this allowed? Why are these people billionaires? Nobody needs to be a billionaire. It doesn't make any sense. America's not supposed to be like this, et cetera, et cetera. Y'all have heard these arguments. So Amazon, 14,000 layoffs. But the CEO of Amazon, who is actually not Jeff Bezos, but the active CEO, has a salary of $40 million. Did y'all know that? Amazon CEO makes $40 million a year. The CEO. While they just fired 14,000 people from whatever they were making to zero. So 14,000 people make nothing. One guy makes $40 million. UPS, they just laid off 48,000 people. Did you all notice? UPS laid off 48,000 people. Now, those 48,000 who no longer have jobs, their CEO at UPS, anybody know the CUS? Anybody want to guess a number? It's in the millions. Give me a number. In the millions, how much does the CEO of UPS make? Comments. How much the CEO of UPS in millions? Just give me a number in millions. How much is their CEO making? Sam says 20 million. Steven says 25. I see 38, 25, 80 million, 10 million, 50 million, 30 million, 50 million, 60 million. So the first couple guesses were the closest. The CEO of UPS makes $24 million a year. 24 million is the CEO of UPS. That's how much they make. $24 million a year, plus their compensation bonuses and all that stuff. So it's actually more than $24 million a year. That's their base. That's the part they got to announce to you, the $24 million, because they're a public company. Intel, we just talked about them. They fired 20,000 people. How much is their CEO making? Intel has a new CEO. Let me find out who the new CEO of Intel is. Who is the current CEO of Amazon and who is the new CEO of Intel? So the new CEO of Intel, give me a guess. How much? How much is the CEO of Intel making? I will tell you that is more than the CEO of UPS. So the CEO of UPS earned 24 million. The CEO of Intel, how much are they making? In millions. Give me a number. It's more than 24. I will tell you that. Steven said 48. Scorpio said 80 to 100. That's too big of a range, Scorpio. You're cheating. I see 40, 32, 60, 45. Is it furlough or layoff? This is layoffs. Thorny, this is layoffs. Anastasia said 80, 65, 32, 35, 35, 33, 34. All right, you all are too conservatives. $69 million. $69 million. So Stephen Albert had it right. $69 million is how much the CEO of Intel is earning. Current CEO of Amazon is Andy Jassy. I've heard his name before. Andy Jassy is the CEO of Amazon. Jeff Bezos just owns the company. So he is basically collecting money and not having to do any work, which is what happens when you build a system. The new CEO of Intel is a guy named Lip-Bu Tan, and he became the CEO in March of 2025. Lip-Bu Tan is his name. He is the 9th CEO ever in the history of Intel. Lip-Bu Tan. Let's see if we can find out who this guy is. All right, here's Lip-Bu Tan. This is the CEO of Intel. This is the guy making $69 million a year. All right, so you go like he makes $69 million a year? He should, because he does. All right, that's him. He just started in March. So it's November. So what is that? 8 months. Okay, he's got about, I think he's collected about half of his paycheck so far. So he's probably made about $35 million this year. Congratulations to Whip Boo Tan. His $35 million that he's made so far. So these CEOs making all this money and the workers getting laid off, not even making less money, but making no money because they got fired from their jobs. I don't see this as necessarily that companies are doing anything wrong. They're not doing anything wrong. I mean, this is just business. You're not entitled to a job somewhere. You're an at-will employee. We want to fire you, we fire you. We don't need you, we fire you. We're not going to pay you money if you're not doing anything that we need that is worth money. At the same time, I understand optically the way that this looks, why the Bernies and the AOCs of the world take advantage of these facts and leverage these facts to get people riled up. And it works very well because most people are not earning $69 million a year. Most people are not earning $1 million a year. And if you get a bunch of people who've been fired, you just got 20,000 people cut. They went from whatever they were earning, which was less than 69 million, to zero. It's 20,000 of them, not upset, but let's just say out of work. And the boss of that same company is now making $69 million a year. Well, obviously the company has money. The company doesn't have a problem paying the money. So let's just do some math here. What's the average income of an average American income? Depending on who you ask, y'all give me a number of average American income, but we're going to use whatever number y'all can give me. And there's a wide range. Depending on who you ask, the average American income is anywhere between 45 and 60 million, 60,000. I keep saying million. 45 and $60,000 a year. But give me a number. How much? I'm talking yearly salary. Average yearly salary. Depending on who you ask, you could get a number anywhere between 46 and 60,000. But I just want to know what y'all are guessing. I see 60. I see 45. I see 75. 75 seems high. I see 60, 50. Yeah, 45, 69 is usually what I hear. 56, 55. So we'll split the difference. Let's just say 45 to 60 that's a $15,000 difference. Let's cut that in half. Let's just say 55. Now let's say 55. I think 55 is high, but let's just say 55,000. Okay. We'll just go with 55,000 for sake of math here. Multiply that by 20,000 people. That's 1.1 E9, which is what? Is that 1.1 million? I don't like when it does this. These E9 stuff annoys me. So let me just do the math on this with a bigger calculator where I can see the number. So if 20,000 people who are making $55,000 a year all stayed working at a company like Intel, where the CEO is earning $69 million a year. Let me turn it this way. That is $1,100,000,000. $1,100,000,000. I thought it was 100 million, but it's not 100 million. It's $1,100,000,000. So technically, they would need more than the money they're paying to the CEO, a lot more than they're paying to the CEO in order to pay all 20,000 people $55,000 a year. Now, we don't know how much money these people are all making. Some of them may have been temp employees, some of them may have been part-time, some of them may have been contractors. There's no detail given as to what exactly that is. It's $1.1 billion. It's how much money they would need to pay all those people. So there is an argument that maybe Intel couldn't afford to hire all those or keep paying all those people. It depends on how much money they were making. CEOs making 69 million compared to each individual. That's a lot of money. But overall, compared to 20,000 people, it's not really that much money. If you take that 69 million and you divide it by 20,000 people, that's $3,000 a person, $3,450 a person. So there is a reasonable argument here if you want to break this down logically. But do politicians make logical arguments? No, they make emotional arguments because that moves the masses. If I'm a politician and I'm trying to make this argument, I'm going to say the CEO of Intel earns $69 million a year and 20,000 people just went from earning money working at Intel to earning $0. Is that fair? And my audience is going to say, hell no, that's not fair. And they're going to get rallied behind me. And this is going to be what my campaign is based on. This is Bernie Sanders' whole career right here in a nutshell. And I understand why this works because there are many more people making $55,000 or less a year than there are people making $69 million a year. And if you want to win an election, you need to get a mass of people supporting you because those are the ones who vote for you. So, of course, you don't need to sell yourself to the $69 million CEO because, number one, he ain't got time to come to your rallies because he's actually fucking working. And number two, there's only one of him and there's 20,000 people who got fired. All right, which one do you have a better chance of helping you win an election? The 20,000 without a job or the $69 million guy running the company? Of course, it's 20,000 without the job. And this is where we get into dangerous territory because neither of them is wrong necessarily. But as the rhetoric keeps getting ramped up about why is this happening this way? Why does this person not have a job? Why is this person making this much money? This company's bringing in record profits. Why are they firing people? Why are they replacing people with AI? Is there a morality issue about AI replacing human beings and most people not having jobs and who's going to buy anything? There is a big conversation to be had about that. And there are some issues that need to be resolved when it comes to this. This is what allegedly politicians are supposed to figure out. My concern is that the current politicians that we have in place, and based on the way they get their jobs, which is by doing what I just explained to you, the example that I just gave to you, this is how they get their jobs. They don't get their jobs because they're actually good at solving real complex issues. This is the problem that we have with our government right now. The people in Congress are the ones who are basically making most of the decisions in America. It's not the president, it's Congress. These are your House of Representatives and these are your senators. They make most of the decisions. The way that the founding fathers designed the American government was that this is supposed to be by the people and for the people. What that meant was, this is how it was originally designed. The people in Congress were supposed to be volunteers, not full-time careers. Volunteers who would take a break from their everyday lives, i.e. working at their jobs, running their business, taking care of their families, and gather together, make a few decisions about how the government is working, based on their knowledge of how things are working for the everyday person, which they had because they were everyday people. The way the government was originally designed is those people were supposed to be everyday people. The people who crafted the founding documents of this country, George Washington, John Adams, these people, Ben Franklin, these people were everyday people. They ran their own businesses. They ran their own shops. They had their own jobs. They had families. They lived in the communities that they were making laws and rules and decisions for. They walked amongst the people. So when they made decisions in the government for the people, they were speaking literally for the people. They were really representing the people because they were amongst them. They had to go back home and talk to those people about the decisions that they just made. And they had to justify those decisions because they had to see those people at the grocery store and at church and at school and when they were walking around the neighborhoods. That's what the government was originally designed to do. The way it becomes so bloated is that the people who are now representing us are not even amongst the people. It's supposed to be by the people, for the people, but the people working in Congress now are all in Washington, D.C., hanging out. They're not hanging in the areas in which they work for the most part. They're not talking to the everyday person. And if they are, they're only doing it for a photo op on camera. So they are not connected to the everyday person. So the everyday person who is at threat of losing their job to AI, you can't go talk to your representative because you're not going to see them at the grocery store. You can call them, but you're going to get the automated message and that somebody on their staff is going to delete your message if they don't like the way that it sounds. You'll never have a real conversation with them. The people who are making the decisions about how things happen in our everyday lives are your Congress people and maybe your local city council people. Maybe you can reach them, but the Congress people are making the federal decisions. They're not amongst the people. So they don't know what the everyday person is going through because they're not everyday people. They have access to insider trading. They got access to power. They got access to people that they would not have access to if they were living in New Hampshire or Texas or Tulsa or Minnesota or North Dakota or Wyoming or California, where they're supposed to be, the district that they allegedly represent. Because they're not dealing with you on a day-to-day basis. They're not taking their kids to the same school that your kids go to. They're not standing outside the school waiting for the kids to come out like you are, standing next to you, talking to you. So they can't hear from you what's actually going on. But they're the ones who are going to make the decisions, or at least they're going to chirp as if they're going to make decisions about what's supposed to happen to help these people who are losing their jobs. And they're going to say all the right things, but do they really know? They don't know because they don't have boots on the ground. They don't know what's going on. But we voted for these people, and it's not that we are necessarily wrong for voting for them because these are the options that are available to us. But the way the system is set up is that if you are going to do anything and make anything happen, working in the DC swamp, for lack of a better term, and it's good to call it a swamp, is you got to go to DC. You got to hang in DC. And if you're not in DC in the mix, dealing with everybody else who's in the mix, you don't have a say, and you're not going to be able to get any of your initiatives to move forward because you don't have any friends in DC. Because all the people who help make the decisions, they're all hanging in DC. So if you want to get decisions made, then you got to hang with the people who hang in DC. But hanging in DC means you're not in Florida, you're not in Louisiana, you're not in Arizona, you're not in Washington State, actually talking to the people that you're supposed to be representing. So there's a fundamental break here between what's supposed to happen and how it was designed to be and how it actually is. And in the mix of all this, the everyday citizen gets fucked. And that's what's happening. And the only way this changes is that the entire system has to be torn down and rebuilt. I don't think this can be built back from the inside. I think you got to tear the whole structure now and you got to rebuild the whole thing. The process of that happening will require anarchy. That's what would have to happen. And the bigger picture point here is that no civilization lasts forever. Civilizations have their peak times and their times of dominance, and then they fall. And then they're not as strong anymore, and things get torn apart and they get rebuilt. Hopefully they get built back better. And that can happen to the United States. And as technology advances and more people lose their jobs, and it's going to be harder for you to tell whether when I'm doing a live stream like this, is this a real person or is this Dre's AI bot doing the chat? Because the AI bot can read comments and respond to it and talk just like I talk because I can train it to do so. It gets harder and harder to understand to where humans don't have to do anything and robots are doing everything. The problem is the humans who are making money by doing stuff that are now replaced. They don't have any jobs now. And you got a whole bunch of people with no job and no prospect for getting one. That's how anarchy can happen. It destroys from the inside out. It doesn't happen from the outside in. It's not some foreign invader is going to come and destroy us. Probably not. Not America. So we got these oceans on both sides, but it's going to be pretty difficult. It's going to be from the inside. And does this technology have something to do with that? It absolutely does. Because a bunch of people are going to say, okay, well, what do I do now? What do my kids do? How do I take care of my family? How do I even pay bills and taxes? What do I do? How do I put gas in my car? This is in the next 25 years. These conversations are going to be happening for lots of Americans. Not just going to be some niche issue. This is going to be a big issue for a lot of people. And the politicians are going to sound like they are right, but they're right for the wrong reason. They think they're right just because they've been saying the same thing. The CEO shouldn't make so much money. There's nothing wrong with the CEO making money. CEO's been making money. It's the fact that the jobs went away and the Congress people don't understand what the everyday person's going through because they're not everyday people. They're supposed to be. Because they're not supposed to be making full-time salaries. If they weren't making full-time salaries and they had term limits, then you had to get in and get out, and you still weren't making enough money to just hang in D.C. You would have to hang at home because you ain't making enough money to hang in D.C. You still got to go and work your job. But Congress somehow, wisely, I'm being sarcastic, convinced itself, hey, we got to pay ourselves more money so that we can do this work because it takes more time than just a part-time investment. And lo and behold, they sold themselves on that beautiful idea that they got to make more money. And here we are. Let me continue. Now, that juxtaposition fuels a narrative that jobs are being sacrificed to protect profits. Is this happening? Probably. Yes. That can undermine trust in corporate paternalism and fuel populist policy demands. This is what I just explained. So is this going to make people not trust corporate paternalism? Who trusts corporate paternalism? I don't know. Any of you trust corporate paternalism? I never trusted it. I don't trust a corporation to do right by me or to serve me or to save me. Now, if I'm doing business with a corporation, I'm pretty sure that the check is there. I'm pretty sure they got the money. Same way working with the government. I'm pretty sure the money is there, but do I trust them? I don't know about that. I don't even see this being undermined. I think it's already undermined. I don't think it ever existed. Now, populist policy demands, absolutely. Being a populist is what got Donald Trump elected the first time. The public sector pressure may force wage regulation, anti-layoff laws, or tax changes. Then I just told you that a few minutes ago. That if so many people are losing their jobs, then there may be wage regulation. And again, this could come from the political right or the political left. Because let's say there's a Republican president and a bunch of Republicans are getting fired because Intel is not firing Democrats versus Republicans. They're firing workers. Doesn't matter who you are. They're just firing people. Amazon's firing people. They don't care who you voted for. So there's going to be a bunch of people on either side politically, citizens, who are losing their jobs. They're going to go to their leaders on either side and say, hey, there's an issue here. We got to do something about this. This could lead to wage regulation. So y'all talking about living wages. It could be bigger and bolder than that. Coming from the government, that is. Anti-layoff laws. You can't lay people off. If your company's making this much money, You must employ this many people. This could happen. Now, some of you who are employees, you may see this as a good thing. I don't see this as a good thing. I think it is good for the employees because you'll have a job. You know, you're going to have a job. That's great. But the problem is, once the government gets involved in telling businesses what they can and can't do, we're no longer America. I don't know what you want to call that, but it ain't America. Y'all tell me what do you call that? Put in the comments, what do you call that? The government gets around to telling big companies, any company for that matter, if you make this much money, you must employ this many people and you got to pay them this much just because you got it. What do you call that? Because that could happen. If there's enough people on either side getting fired, that could happen. Because they're going to go to their representatives and say, hey, what do you do about this? So I'm saying a bunch of different words, some socialism, some communism, some dictatorship. Yes, that's what it becomes. Dictatorship. Yeah. So y'all talking about Donald Trump, not all of you, but you hear people saying Donald Trump talking about being a dictator on day one. Y'all haven't seen a dictator. It's funny to say that about Donald Trump. That's not a dictator. All right. Y'all haven't seen a dictator. And as these jobs keep getting replaced, and we're talking between now and 2050, everybody. So those of you who are under the age of 60, you may be allowed to see this. Most of you, you'll be allowed to see this. Something they got to figure this out. So workers who keep their jobs, they may see more pressure to be more flexible, hybrid, multi-skilled. In other words, one person doing the work of three people. I gave you this example yesterday. If I run a pizza shop, I got 3 employees paying them $10 an hour each. The minimum wage goes up to $20 an hour. I'm not paying a $10 person $20. I'm firing 2 of them. I'm keeping the best one. And I'm going to make them do the job of 3 people for their $20. So they're doing 3 times the work for twice the money. So I'm winning because I'm not paying $20 an hour to a $10 worker. I'm not doing it. So I'm going to fire 2 people. I'm keeping 1. And now you got to do more work. How many of you have or have ever worked at a job where you knew you were doing the job of more than one person? Put me in the comments. Any of you have ever had a job like that, or you have a job like that right now, where you know that this job actually should be being done by more than one person, but they got you doing all of it? Okay, so all of you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you stop doing it, they'll just fire you. And they'll get somebody else who'll do it. That's how it is. So some of you are doing the work of 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. This is what happens in business. They just have you do the work of more than one person because they're not going to pay that much money to multiple people who ain't that good. So all of you who has ever been that, or if you're doing it right now, on one level, I get it. I feel for you because they're squeezing all the equity and effort out of you that they can. On the other hand, I commend you because at least you're good enough to be the one that they kept. They could have fired you and had somebody else do what you're doing. So at least you showed that you're good enough that you're the one that they chose to do the work of 2 or 3 or 4 people. And this is pretty much where we're at. And it's going to get worse. This is what y'all got to get. If you think this is bad, some of you may be okay with it, but you think this is bad, it's going to get worse. Why? Because more jobs are going to get eliminated through automation. This is what it is. So a worker who upskills in AI support or logistics may fare better than a narrowly trained colleague. Because companies are going to favor people who can generally do a whole bunch of different things. People who are, versatile. Versatile skills. That's what's going to help you here. So workers who keep their jobs, as I already explained, all right, you're going to be doing a whole lot of work, more work than you're already doing. This also means higher risk for workers who are unable or unwilling to adapt. So adaptability is the key here. All you college degree holders, I'm sorry. Now, I have a college degree myself. Now, I'm not in the workforce, but all you college degree holders, that degree, you didn't need it. You needed it, but you didn't need it. You needed it because it probably got you to interview in the first place. Maybe got you hired at a higher pay rate. And maybe there was a time 10, 15 years ago when just that degree alone was enough to get you that specific job. Nowadays, how many of you, put me in the comments if you have a job right now and you are doing work that has nothing to do with your college degree? Put me in the comments if that's you. If you are a salaried employee and you're doing work that has nothing to do with what you studied in college, even though you studied in college, put me in the comments if that's you. You got a degree in something, and maybe you got the job for the degree, but now the work you're doing has nothing to do with the degree. All right, so it's damn near all of you. Most of you are not doing work that's directly related to your degree only, unless maybe if you're a doctor or a scientist or you're an engineer, maybe those spaces. But for the most part, or a lawyer. But for the most part, you get the degree. And again, the degree gets you into the room. The degree gets you in the room. Like when I first got out of college, I got hired for a couple of jobs before I started playing ball. I got hired for a couple of jobs at higher levels than I would have got hired because I had a degree, even though it didn't have shit to do with what I studied in school. I worked at Foot Locker. I worked at a gym called Bally Total Fitness. Both of them called me for interviews because I had a college degree. But what the hell you need a college degree for to sell sneakers? You don't. But this is the way the system was designed. I mean, it still is like this, but it doesn't matter anymore. So now many of you, all of you, are doing work that has shit to do with your degree, even though you got the degree. And now you have to develop new skills. So the key thing these days is to be that generalist. All of you want to be generalists. So some of you have heard people use the pejorative phrase, a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You ever heard somebody say that? You're a jack of all trades, but a master of none. You actually want to be that these days. You want to be a jack of all trades. You can be a master of some of them, but you definitely want to be a jack of all trades. Why? Because the more versatile your skill set and the more versatile your adaptability and your ability to learn, the more options you give yourself in the marketplace. You want to have options in the marketplace. The more skills you have and the more things you know, the more things you are willing to learn and able to adapt to, the better chance you have of remaining employed and the better chance you have of giving yourself the chance to do shit in the open marketplace. Because the job that you have right now, you might not have that job in 5 years. That job might not be a job in 5 years. Some of you who are listening to this, the job you have won't be a job. But if you keep developing skills and you keep learning stuff and you're open to learning new stuff, now you'll be in a position to where you can pivot more easily. But if you only know one thing and then you only did that one thing and you haven't developed any other skill and you don't want to, well, if that one thing gets pulled out from underneath you, well, you're going to fall on your ass and then they're just going to leave you there. That's the next level. And this is what's happening to people. And again, by the way, folks, this is happening to people today. I'm not talking about some 10 years from now. This is happening to people right now. So all of you who said me, when I said who has a degree, but you're doing work that has nothing to do with your degree, that's good. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I have a degree in business with a focus in management and marketing. And technically I run a business and I do a lot of marketing and I do managing. But none of that has anything to do with what I learned in college. Nothing I learned in college helps me do what I do now. Zero. I was open to learning new skills, getting new information, and getting a real life education outside of the classroom. That's another thing all of you need to be doing. Getting real life education outside of the classroom. How many of you put me in the comments if you have in the last, or put no if you have not, in the last, just this year, this is October already. So let's just say just in 2025, you have invested in, that means you made a financial purchase in a course or a book to learn new skills or new knowledge that could help you execute a skill. How many of you have invested in anything that helped you learn new skill, new knowledge, but it wasn't school based? It wasn't at school. It means a course, a program, some type of training that wasn't school based to help you develop new skills. You did this on your own volition, meaning your boss didn't make you do it. Your job didn't make you do it. It's not at a college, but you invested money into learning something new to make yourself better and more valuable. All right. All of you need to be doing this. Everybody listening to this, if you plan on being in the workforce. Now, if you're retired and you're good, then I'm not talking to you. But if you're going to be in the workforce, especially those of you who are on the younger side, those of you who are under 30, college students, if I have any listening, college graduates, recent college grads, keep developing new skills, get new knowledge, learn about technology, learn how AI works, or learn how to manipulate these things, because this is what you're going to need in the future. Because in the future, it's not going to be a clearly defined job. It's just going to be like, can you help us get shit done? That's what it's going to be. Can you help us get things done? And you make yourself valuable in a space, then you'll always have a job. But if you can only do one thing and that one thing gets replaced by automation, well, goodbye. That's it for you. You're done. So this is where we're going. So workers who are unable or unwilling to adapt, especially if you're older, all right, that layoff activity is going to affect people in manufacturing jobs. This is in the middle of the country. Those of you in middle America, it's a lot of manufacturing jobs, manual labor jobs. When those robots come, they're not leaving. When the robots come, it's over for those manufacturing jobs, manual labor jobs, and in the knowledge work that is in the technological areas. So those are on the coast, Seattle, the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. Those jobs are going to be replaced by computer chips. The manual labor jobs get replaced by robots. Okay, well, what jobs are left? People who can adapt. That's what's going to be left. Anybody who can adapt. Okay, I was doing that. Now I'm going to learn how to do this. So keep developing your skills, folks. When you have skills that can help people, you will always be able to make money. Now, if you're a job seeker, this is the time you want to emphasize your future-proof abilities. And by the way, for those who don't know, I have a podcast that comes out every day. This that I do here, I don't consider this a podcast. Some of you call this a podcast. I don't consider this, but this is just a live stream for me. But I did a series, the future-proof skills that you need. This is episode number 3137. My podcast is called Work on Your Game. I'll show you what it looks like. My show comes on Spotify and Apple every single day. The artwork looks like this. So y'all look this up on Apple or Spotify. Work on Your Game. Is episode number 3137. I did a 4-part series. The future-proof skills that you need. What are future-proof skills? These are skills that will always be valuable and useful and marketable. Marketable means people will pay money for them. These are skills that you will always need no matter what changes in technology. I'll give you a couple of them right here off the top. One of them is communication skills, your ability to speak to one person or your ability to speak to a group, as I'm doing right now. Communication skills, your ability to write. These skills will always be valuable no matter what. Even if ChatGPT can write a blog post for you, your ability to write still matters. Your ability to speak still matters. Your ability to communicate with a person or a group will always be valuable. That's a future-proof skill. Your ability to sell, which is connected to your ability to communicate. Your ability to show somebody what you have, explain why it's useful, and then get them to see the same thing that you see about it. Big Chef Yes is on YouTube. If you can get people to see that, that's ability to sell. Sell is ability to get my idea to become your idea and you to agree with my idea and then give me money in exchange for it. That is selling. If you can do that, you will always have an opportunity to make money. Why? Because if you can make money move, you will always make money. It's simple as that. That's what selling is. Selling is the ability to make money move. So any of you who has the ability to make money move and you can use it, you know how to use it, you'll always have the opportunity to move yourself forward. So communication and selling are 2 future-proof skills that will always, always, always be valuable. But I laid out 12 of them in that series. It's a 4-part series, 3 pieces each one. Go listen to it again. Episode 3137. Yes, you can find it on YouTube. Just look up my name, Dre Baldwin. Just type in the number 3137. You'll see it. It's also on Spotify, also on Apple. Or you can just Google it. So future-proof skills, folks. Your ability to adapt and learn. I'll give you one more. That's your ability to adapt and learn is a future-proof skill. Why? Because there's always going to be new things. It's going to be things that are no longer needed. There's going to be things that are now needed. Right? There are certain things that it used to matter if you knew how to do that. Now you don't need to know how to do it. It used to matter if you knew how to put captions on a video. Now you don't need to put captions on the video. You push a button and the system puts captions on your video. So that skill doesn't matter anymore. So can you adapt and learn a different skill that does matter? All right, those are the things. Those are the next things. One future-proof skill all of you can learn is how to program AI to actually work for you rather than trying to race against it. All right, these are all future-proof abilities. So this is what people who work in the career coaching industries, this is what they should be telling you. I'm not a career coach, but those who are, they should be telling you this stuff. So being able to create automations and be a cross-functional communicator. What's a cross-functional communicator? That's kind of like what I'm doing right now. My main work has nothing to do with politics or tech or job layoffs or the Democrats or the Republicans or any of this shit that I often talk about in these live streams. But I have the ability to look at this material and look at the information and the facts and the stuff that's happening, and I can break it down and I can explain it and I can talk about it. This is not my main work. This is not my main area of focus. I don't work in politics. I've never been paid by a political organization, never spoke at TPUSA or any national, what do they call those? The national, the DNC and the RNC. I've never spoken at any of these events, and none of these people know me. I don't know them. They may know me. I don't know them. This is not my main work, but I can break it down and explain it. That's a cross-functional ability. I can break down and explain pretty much anything. If I can look at it and I can read, I can break it down and explain it. All right, so developing these skills, folks, I'm not telling you this to impress you, but to impress upon you. The more of these skills you develop, the more opportunity you give yourself moving forward. Now, good skills are not a complete shield because high performers can get caught in structural ways if your employer pivots or automations happen across the board. That's why you got to keep updating. That's why I said what I said. So a bunch of Intel workers were high performing workers, according to Intel. They had high performer status. They still got fired. Did everybody hear that? Let me say that again. According to Intel's internal documentation, 20% of the people who got fired at Intel had status as high performing people. They were high performers at Intel and they still got fired. Intel fired, how many people did I say Intel fired? Intel fired 20,000 people. 20% of that is, what is that, 4,000? 4,000 of the 20,000 people that Intel fired were noted by Intel as high performers and they still got fired. Which means it's not about being good at the job. It's about being good at a job that matters. Everybody tracking here. So at the policy level, as we already talked about, there could be more debate over the UBI. What was that guy's name who was talking about the UBI? Was it Andrew? Was it Yang or Wang? What was his last name? Was it Andrew Yang? He was talking about the universal basic income. Everybody's going to have that pretty soon. He might get proven correct. In the next 25 years, he might get proven correct. We might have a UBI in the next 25 years. Wage subsidies, stronger unemployment benefits, or some type of retraining program. So a retraining program already exists. Is the willingness of people to actually be retrained that is the issue. It's not the program itself. And if the government comes up with retraining programs, what they need to do, if the government gets smart, I don't think they're very smart right now, but if the government is really smart, what the government needs to do is that they need to contract people like me to do the retraining programs and not have the government do it. They should spearhead it because they can write the check, but they should bring in people like me to do the retraining for everyday people, not some government person, because that person's probably shit and trash. And all they're going to do is retrain you on skills that are not going to be useful. They need to retrain you with people who are actually in the field doing the stuff. People like myself and many others. I talked about this several months ago. We were talking about Job Corps. If you were around several months ago, we were talking about Job Corps when it got shut down because Job Corps is a failing program. The reason Job Corps failed because they got a bunch of shit trainers. If they have better trainers, then Job Corps would work. So the trainers to teach people jobs and career skills and things that will future-proof them, you got to get people who are actually out there doing it, not people who just got hired just for that, but people who are already doing it. You contract people like me. I'm not going to be a full-time government worker. You contract me. I will take the stuff I'm already doing with the private citizens and with companies, and I will do it on behalf of the government for the people who need the skills. The government just writes the check. That's what they should do. Now, if that's going to happen, somebody like Donald Trump would be a person who could understand that. But right now, it's not a serious enough issue to be on his radar. Unfortunately, which is why we need a third term of Donald Trump. Now, I'm just joking. But this is going to become an issue. I say within the next 10 to 15 years. It depends on who's the president then. Now, if the president is some Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, y'all in trouble. I'm not joking. If the president is a Donald Trump, I'm not saying him himself. JD Vance, maybe. I got to hear him talk a little bit more. But somebody who understands this type of stuff, who understands business and enterprise, and they understand you got to put somebody who actually knows business in these positions, somebody like Donald Trump, an actual businessman, then the people who are in the workforce right now, those of you, you'll be in a good space. But it depends on who's in charge. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. So elections have consequences. It does matter. So some states like Washington and Massachusetts, they're already piloting transition job grants for workers displaced by automation. I don't know how those are designed. Those of you who live in those states, maybe you know something about it. A policy change usually lag behind when it comes to recognition and execution. In other words, if you're waiting for the federal government to do something, they usually do it about 3 to 5 years later than it needs to be done. This is the problem with depending on the government. Another problem with depending on the government. By the time the government gets around to actually doing something tangible for a problem that we all recognize, is about 3 to 5 years after we recognize the problem because the government is just too slow. It's big, bureaucratic, and it's too much red tape. And you got a bunch of people who don't even know what the fuck they're doing, trying to handle issues that they're unqualified to address. These are your Congress people. Because being a congressperson is a full-time job. Do y'all understand? See, being a congressperson, being a full-time job, you can't send Congress to handle business issues because they're not business people. Now, if Congress was designed, if it was operating the way it's supposed to be, the way it was initially designed, what you would have is a bunch of people who actually run businesses and actually have jobs and actually are with their families on a consistent basis. They be running Congress. They would make decisions based on what the everyday person needs because they are actually everyday people and they understand because they're talking to these people every day. Congress people are not doing that. This is why they're so out of touch. And this is the reason why they don't really give a damn. And even when they do get around to giving a damn, they solve the problem the wrong way because they don't know what they're doing. Because their full-time job is keeping their job in Congress. Whereas my full-time job is running a business. So who's going to better solve a business problem? Jasmine Crockett and Bernie Sanders or me? Me, because I know what the hell I'm doing. Bernie Sanders knows nothing about this world. Jasmine Crockett doesn't know anything about this world. She doesn't know anything about it. She doesn't need to. Her job is being in Congress. That's why she's on CNN. Whereas I'm here talking to you. There's a difference. And these are your Congress people, folks. So if you're expecting the government to solve your problem, I'm telling you, get a Snickers bar because you're going to be waiting for a while. You're not going anywhere for a while. Remember those commercials they used to have? So they take too long. So the retraining programs historically take 12 to 18 months for them to even start doing it. And that's not even considering whether the programs actually work or not. So again, you want to wait on them? Good luck. All right, same thing I tell New Yorkers. All right, good luck. Good. And I'm talking about that election y'all got coming up. Now, this isn't about just tech or just logistics, by the way. So if you don't work in tech or logistics, I'm not only talking to them. I don't work in tech or logistics. I'm talking to people who I work with. All right, everybody needs to pay attention because, again, the downstream effects, the people who you serve, they don't have money, or the people who they serve don't have money, then you ain't going to have no money. Eventually, it's going to make its way to you. So even traditional industries are not exempt from this restructuring. And without strategic response from, really it needs to be from the workers. I say workers, ultimately you are responsible for your situation. The government eventually is going to get involved. Depending on who's in charge, they might do something useful. This could be a bigger fallout than what it looks like. Right now, if you're not directly affected by this, it may seem like this is just something to talk about, but this can get a lot bigger than what it looks like right now. All that said, let's get into the commentary, folks. I need to take a restroom break. Give me 90 seconds to take a restroom break, folks, and then we will get to the comments here. And how many likes we at? 81,000 likes. Thank you for getting the likes up, everybody. Let's make sure we get to 100K. And we'll get to use some of our favorite sounds, such as... Oh, the sound didn't play. Let me restart my soundboard. Then I'm going to take a 90-second restroom break. Then we'll get to it. There we go. Or... You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Or...
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
90 seconds. We are back. Let's get to it over on YouTube. O-Dog said, AI isn't as cost effective as being projected. The energy cost alone will be massive. Yeah, I've seen some of the little mini documentaries about AI. For those who don't know, for AI to work as fast as it does, these supercomputers that make AI work so quickly and process so much information, these computers use a lot of battery power, and that battery power requires electricity and it requires water. And when those computers are running in these big farms that have all these processors, it costs a lot of money. it drains a lot of the water supply in the places where they actually run, and it makes noise. It's like this hum of noise is happening all day. There's videos on YouTube about this, where people who live in the communities, you hear this undertone noise happening all day. It's like the sound of it's like if there's a lawnmower like 3 blocks away, you know how you can hear it 3 blocks away. It's like that, but it's all day, 24 hours a day. You hear that sound. So you know how you hear a lawnmower on Saturday morning, and it's fine because you know the lawnmower eventually turns off. So it's like that all day, 24 hours a day, and you live there. But look at the videos up on YouTube. So you're right about that. The energy cost alone for AI is extremely high. O-Dog said that you call that Italy during World War II. So Donald Trump has no teeth. Dictators actually bite. Trump just barks. Okay, interesting. O-Dog says, the nature of being an employee, if one person can get it done, then it's a job for one person. Pretty much. I agree. And you worked at Foot Locker too? So they have a very bad culture. Managers used to get it in with subordinates. Well, I'm not even going to respond to that. I was a manager at Foot Locker. O-Dog. That's all I'll say. Anyway. Let's see what we got over on Instagram. On Instagram, Big Chef 444. Good morning. Georgia Jewel said dictatorship. That's right. And Big Chef said me once upon a time. Okay. Brandon Joseph. Good morning. Said taken for granted. The Noble Wife. Good morning. Said I own a business that has nothing to do with it. LOL. I'm told this all the time. Yeah. Everybody needs it. Every year you're getting yourself better. Yes, this is on YouTube. All this stuff that y'all see is on YouTube. Georgia Jewel said that the purpose of a college degree shows you the ability to complete tasks, communicate, write effectively, as well as learn new things. Not a bad idea to obtain a college degree. Georgia Jewel, I would have to push back on that. I think the purpose of the college degree, I think the main thing a college degree proves is that you can be disciplined enough to show up consistently, go to class, take the test, and pass. That does show some level of It shows a level of discipline. It shows that you can start something and finish it. That's what I think a college degree most proves amongst anything else. Above and beyond anything else, a college degree proves that you can start something and finish it for 4 years. You can go to class enough, study enough, and pass tests enough to complete something. That does prove something. That does prove that you can show up to a job every day and do your job. Because what's the number one indicator of future performance is past performance. It doesn't even matter what the degree is in. Now, you said communicate and write effectively. It depends on what your degree is in. You may not need to communicate or write that effectively to get a college degree, depending on what you're studying. I didn't have to communicate that much. I wrote a little bit, but not really. I have good communication and writing skills, but I didn't really need those to get my degree. And then you said to learn new things. I'm going to have to wholeheartedly push back on that. College degree does not actually make you learn anything. What it teaches you is to absorb the material, prove that you have memorized it or that you quote unquote know it enough, and then you regurgitate it on the test. That's what a college degree proves that you can do. That's not a bad thing to learn, but it doesn't mean that you actually have learned anything. Ask me something that I learned in college. I couldn't tell you much, even though I have a degree. I went there for 4 years. I went to a whole lot of classes, took a whole lot of notes, took a whole lot of tests, passed most of them. I couldn't tell you most of the things that I quote unquote learned in college because it's not really about learning. It's about indoctrination and regurgitation. And then you said it's not a bad idea. I agree. It is not a bad idea because it does prove that you can at least show up and do something consistently, which a lot of people don't have that ability. So generally, I agree with that. But some of your points there, I don't agree with. Big Chef said, America and its government is a business. People don't understand that. Yes, it is a business, but not a traditional type of business. Big Chef said, are you on TikTok? Yes. TikTok is at work on your game. Everything I've accomplished in life was without a college degree. I chose to invest in my mind and make myself valuable. My mind is the most valuable thing I own. Yes, it is. Number one thing everybody should be investing in is themselves. Number one thing to invest in is yourself because you will always be around. I've told people that. I've done episodes on my podcast actually talking about that. Number one thing to invest in, folks, is yourself because your job may change. You may close a business and open a new business. The car you have now is not going to be your car 20 years from now. Your wardrobe can change. But you will always be you. As long as you're alive, you're going to be there. So you should invest in yourself. Number one thing. And your mind is the most valuable tool you have. So let's see what we got on TikTok. Thorny Sticker said they already have AI videos that people can't decipher as real or fake. Yes, this is something that I've talked about. One of the good things or bad things, depending on how you look at it, about AI is that in the next 10 to 20 years, if a video comes out that has you in it, doing something that you don't want connected to your name, you can just say that it's fake, even if it's real. You could just say, "Oh no, that's not real. I didn't do that. I didn't say that. That's fake." So everybody could just call anything fake, and you can make something that is fake, and then you can say it is real, and no one will know the difference. So that's a good or a bad thing about AI, depending on how you want to look at it. Mr. D-Row, thanks for the follow. Nicholas Chen says, regulated capitalism is better. What you're saying is an extreme of that. I don't know if I like regulated capitalism. Regulated by who? I think capitalism is already regulated. It's regulated by the outcomes and the incentive to produce. Sunshine and Whiskey said, the government in Illinois has already mandated break times for 12-hour employees. That wasn't already part of the law. They had to make that up. I thought that was already a thing. You had to have a break if you worked at a job. But Mudding and Disney said, big companies already are being told what they can and can't do by the government. Well, yes, on some level, but I'm saying they would do more. Yes, companies are already told what they can and can't do. Like, yes, you got to give healthcare if somebody's full time and somebody works 8 hours, they get at least a 30-minute break. Yes, that kind of stuff. You have those basic things. I'm talking about bigger things like if you make this much money, you got to have this many employees. You got to pay everybody a certain amount because there are too many people who don't have jobs. That's what I'm saying could happen. That would have to happen under a politically left government, however. Thorny said, control the population. Yeah, you're talking like that's some Bill Gates stuff. Sunshine said, working in the hospital, I don't believe they should have any say in when my people take breaks. Well, I think you saying the hospital or you saying the government? I believe it's a federal law that if you have a person working a certain amount of hours in a shift, they are entitled to a break of either an hour or 30 minutes, that they're entitled to a break just because they're working. I think that's just a federal law. Now, when they take the break is a different story, but do they get a break? Yes, that they're entitled to one. Victoria said, Donald Trump is far from a dictator as any president we've had. In fact, he fights it. Yes, that's the reason why I brought it up. People said, well, and Donald Trump he said that as a tongue-in-cheek thing about the dictator on day one, but of course his opponents took it and ran with it, made it seem like that's the only thing he said. It was not what he said, but he's far from being a dictator. Again, y'all haven't seen a dictator. No one in America has seen a dictator, not in America at least. D-Miz Zero said, if government actually worried about government, we have better roads, law and order, not social issues. Well, the government worries about the people who work in the government want to keep their jobs. That's their number one priority. Mudding said, all politicians are for themselves first. Yes, exactly. Blessed Mama said, are you going to run for office? No, I'm not going to run for office. And they would have to change the entire system. I don't want to lie to people for a living, which you have to do to be successful in America as a politician. Servington, thank you for the follow. Golden said, every job I ever had. So a bunch of you been the person who's been overworked. Sammy Girl said, you're a federal worker. So I know in the federal government they do it. In the private sector as well. Mustang Sally, thanks for the follow. Shelby Long said, my husband, that's why we started our own business. Was he getting overworked? Daniel M. Johnson said, me all the time, multiple jobs. Monique said, nursing and healthcare, unfortunately, patients suffer. I can see that happens in the nursing and healthcare space, that you're overworked and you got more people to serve than you really should be. Dr. Julia says, we as teachers do that shit every day and there's still a shortage. I believe you. Because there are not that many good teachers out there. So when there's a good one, then they got to overwork the good ones to make up for the bad ones. We appreciate your work, though, assuming that you're a good teacher. Legion of Room said, I like doing work too, keeps a busy day. Fair enough, as long as you feel like it's a workable process. But eventually people get to the point where they can't keep working that process. So I also understand the other side of it. G-Do Jazz Guitar said, you get what you pay for. I agree. Ben Strategy, thanks for the share. Google Play said they still want more. This is true. Reason said, if I can't figure out a way to make my own money one day, that's on me. I agree with you. I am of that same mindset of taking ownership of your circumstance. At the same time, there's a lot of Americans who don't think this way, Legion of Room. And if the masses of Americans don't think that way, so if the masses can't figure out how to make money and they indeed don't have any, then all of us have a problem. Because how are you going to make money, Legion of Room, if you don't have anybody to sell to? And if everybody on your left and everyone on your right and everyone in front of you, behind you, above you, and below you, none of them have money and you're the only one with money, well, this becomes a societal issue. And this is what the government is designed to preclude from happening. The problem is we have a bunch of incompetence in the government. I don't think they're going to solve this problem. And I do believe this is going to become a problem in the next 25 years. That's the problem with the problem. Golda said, I will always outwork the next person, work ethic. I appreciate that mentality. Again, same thing I said, the Legion of Room. Most people don't have that mentality. This people who are listening to me right now, this is a select subset of the population. All of you understand as a general rule that most people don't think the way that what we're talking about here. So we are less than 1% of 1% of the American population here having this conversation. Thorny said, if you're good at your job, they get you to do other jobs, but will cut you off just as quick. This is very true. Good Free said, our life has no value. What do you mean by that? Your life has a lot of value. Marwa said, if AI takes all the jobs, who's going to buy the products? Well, that's the question that needs to be asked and answered, rather. That question has been being asked. The question is, what's the answer? It's not going to take all the jobs, but I get what you're saying. I get direction of your question. So a bunch of you know these situations. JJ Gamble, good morning. Daniel said, I work for the school district as lead bus mechanic. I have the knowledge and the ability. Well, see, that's good. Now, see, what you're doing is the kind of job that is kind of future proof because there's always going to be kids that need to go to school. And a lot of kids are always going to ride on a school bus and somebody has to fix that bus. Now, your threat, Daniel, is when computers start building those school buses and they become automated school buses, then they won't need you anymore. So if that happens, then you got to stay on your toes just in case. Or they create robots that can fix the buses that people drive. But I think it's automated school buses is probably the biggest threat that you have. But there'll be a while before automated school buses because if there's any possibility that something can go wrong with that bus, then they won't let it be driven by an autonomous is the word I meant to say. They won't let it be autonomous because if an autonomous school bus was to crash, that's going to be the biggest lawsuit in history. So, Daniel, I think you're safe for the rest of your career. I don't know how old you are, but you probably got another 50 years before. No, that's too conservative. I say you got about 20 years probably safely before they won't need you. Mara said, I didn't even need my degree for my job. Yes, I think a lot of people have that same experience, Mara. Echo said, that's why I always get the job no matter what the job is. Well, that's great. Pay, thank you for the follow. JJ said, Servington, good morning, JJ said, what job will not be automated? Well, the jobs that are mostly not going to be automated are jobs that require human touch. Human touch jobs are not going to be automated. What is a human touch job? A human touch job would be like a nurse who has very high quality bedside manner. So there's somebody in the hospital, some kids in there, or somebody is getting cancer treatments, or somebody just broke their leg, or somebody's giving birth to a baby. The person who works in the hospital who has good bedside manner, meaning they can stand next to that person who's in the hospital and care for them and just be human, be a human being in a way that they feel cared for and taken care of and not isolated. You can't replace that with a robot. That's one example. I mentioned communication skills. Bedside manner is communication. It's not just your verbal communication, not what you say, it's how you say it. Any of you who works in the healthcare sector can co-sign that. It's how you say things and how you are. That's what they call it, a bedside manner. That's why it's called that. Communication skills. So the things that I'm talking about here, I could easily just write this down or throw it into some chat bot and have it produce an article that says everything that I've been saying for the last hour and a half. But it wouldn't feel the same if you were just reading it or there was some computer saying it to you. It feels different when there's a human saying it. So anything that involves communication skills that require interpretation. We're at 100,000 likes. Thank you, everybody. Anything that requires human interpretation and explanation, a computer can't replace it because people like to talk to people. Our wave of humans, those of you listening to me right now, our wave of humans still wants to talk to humans. We still want to talk to humans. Now, our kids and our kids' kids, that may be a different story. But all of us, we still want to deal with human beings. So if you have the ability to communicate with other humans in a way that they can appreciate, whether you're explaining something, you're answering questions, whether you're just sitting with them, you're a therapist or something like that, that will always be valued. So JJ Gamble, what I would tell you to angle for is not a specific job, but something that requires human touch. Human touch cannot be replicated by a robot. Not yet. Not yet. Maybe 30 years from now. But as of now, we're all good. Shelby said, I'll be retired in 10 years. I think, yeah, Shelby, I think you're going to get out right in time. I don't even know what you do, but you'll get out right in time before a lot of things that people thought couldn't be replaced will be replaced. Daniel said, old man told me this 30 years ago. Yeah, they were right. Andrea Nisi says, started my first business at age 10 thanks to my grandfather's advice about diversifying skills. So your grandfather was a smart man. Echo said, love learning. Taylor said, me. Good gracious, sure did. Yeah, so a bunch of you. TJ SB. JJ said, I have EPA, different JJ. I have EPA license for HVAC, and I'm working in a warehouse right now for insurance and have a 401k retirement. All right. Well, I think as long as you have options, tanker and hazmat endorsement CDL. Echo said, that was James. Echo said, I went from manufacturing of 20 years to healthcare. Okay. Was it because of the pivot of the industries or what? Queso Burrito, thanks for the share. Sophie the cat said, I'm going to learn how to fix robots. Yeah, that's a good industry to be in because there's going to be a lot of robots taking over. Yeah, robots taking over manufacturing jobs. Got it. Dawn said, as a therapist, I always want to learn more skills. Good idea. Dawn, what you can learn is maybe how to program your knowledge as a therapist into a system for people who don't mind doing their therapy through a computer. So a lot of people use ChatGPT as a therapist these days. So if you can learn how to program a bot based on your knowledge of therapy and your touch as a therapist, that could be valuable because then you can have that bot serve 50,000 clients. You can't serve 50,000 clients. You don't have enough time, but your bot can serve 50,000 clients. So if you can learn something about programming and getting that out and selling it, that could be valuable to you because there's a lot of people who don't mind doing their therapy with a phone app as opposed to an actual human. I think that wave is happening right now. Sean, thanks for the follow. Christy said, my son is 23, started 3 unrelated business, has a real estate license now, and enlisted in the Army. Yeah, it's good for him. Is having diversity of skill. Diversification of skills is the next move, folks. So jack of all trades is a thing to actually be. People used to say that as an insult, but it's actually a smart thing. JJ said, anything electrical or plumbing or HVAC or carpentry or bricklaying or pouring concrete. Money, yes. All of those things for now. For now, JJ. But there are robots being worked on to replace humans with that because humans make mistakes. Robots don't make mistakes. Chelsea says, sales run the world. That is a fact. JJ said, you can write your own check. Yes, for now you can. Victoria said, you can communicate the products. Kanye said that? Well, good. He was right. Stacy Elvis, thanks for the follow. Steven said, Intel's about to go full automation. I bet it'll be robotic within 6 years, if that. I agree. You're right. There's not going to be anybody working at Intel. Just a C-suite. Anthony Burnett, thanks for the follow. Derail, thanks for the follow. Federal court said it will still be Trump. Think so? Sunshine said, haha, third time with Trump. Are you sure you're not Republican? Yeah, that was a tongue-in-cheek joke. Steven said, we do really need Trump another 4 years, honestly. Well, on that note, Donald Trump would be good because Donald Trump's a businessman. He thinks like a businessman, and these other politicians do not. They're politicians. So in terms of what I was saying, fixing Job Corps and fixing the retraining issue that's going to be necessary for a lot of Americans. Here's another thing. Any of you who knows how to train a skill that is future-proof, what you need to do, not need to do, what you could do is create some type of offering to where you find people who are being displaced from their jobs and you retrain them on new skills. Basically, career coaching. I mentioned that earlier. I'm not a career coach, but everybody's kind of a career coach. If you're in coaching, you're career coaching because you're helping people with their careers with whatever you teach. So when I teach the Power Presence Protocol, it's not career coaching, but it kind of is because the things that I'm teaching people are going to help them in their careers. It's like people say life coaching. All coaching is life coaching because everything you do is part of your life. If I coach you to play basketball, I'm life coaching you because it's part of your life to play basketball. If I coach you on selling, that's life coaching because sales is a part of life. So, Lodi Swanson, thanks for the follow. Samson, thanks for the share. Lori Lockton, thank you for the follow. Cure Fan said, I bet a lot of people who were laid off or close to retirement and salary have gotten too high. Yeah, that's part of it, but it's not that many. A lot of them are still actively in the game. It ain't that many people close to retiring. Andrea, thanks for the repost. Sunshine and Whiskey, thanks for the heart. Mara said, AI. Oh, yeah, I answered that one. Marky said, Marky, man, we're having this conversation with the shipping ports wanting to go automation. Well, if they want to go automation, they will. It's happening. Federal court said we're going to buy it with our EBT card. Yeah, as long as they accept EBT. R. Philly said, you gotten really good with the soundboard. Well, thank you. R. Philly said, not sure if AI could adapt in that way anytime soon. Yeah, that's the same thing I think sometimes with AI, but I don't know as much about tech. I'm not a technology geek. AI and technology is faster than it looks. That's what I would say about technology. So if you're looking at something and saying it ain't quite there yet, and you say, all right, it'll be there in 5 years, that usually means about a year and a half. What most of us think is going to take 5 years takes about a year and a half. That's how fast technology is. I believe it's called Moore's Law. The computing power doubles every 18 months. So it's just getting faster and faster at getting better at stuff. So where was I? I lost my spot in the comments. Brooke Martella, good morning. Mikey said degrees are okay for some things, but the trades are what people should be looking at. Yeah, see, the trades are tangible skills, whereas a college degree is not a tangible skill. College degree just means you went to school. That's all it means. And I say this as a person with a degree. Sunshine said, I agree with you. I got my bachelor's and master's later in life. They didn't teach me anything. They're not supposed to teach you anything. What they are credentials. Your bachelor's and master's are credentials that help you get jobs, but they don't actually prepare you for the job. They're just credentials. They're pieces of paper is what college degrees are. Heather, good morning. Andrew said, my self-employment started watching my grandfather who was self-employed with a 6th grade education. Yeah, a lot of people did that back in the day when there were less people going to college. Nowadays, everybody's just going to college almost like by default without considering if it makes any sense. Iggy said, the most important thing I remember from my college was my social security number. Yeah, you're probably right about that. The billionaire chef, oh, you found me from Instagram. All right, glad to see you here. Thank you for the heart and joining the fan club. Kim Grigg said, I hate AI. Kim Grigg, you should not hate AI. You should start learning how to use it because it's not going away. Anthony Dwayne Peets, thank you for the follow. Carlo, good morning. Ruben said, if everyone gets replaced, who will buy their products? Yes, this is a fundamental question. It's not going to be everyone, but a lot of people. And this is why, again, a lot of things that some of us thought might be crazy ideas might happen. Like that universal basic income, that might happen. JJ said only 15 minutes in each 8-hour period. Is that the all? We'll see. Ruben said, if everyone gets, oh, you already asked that question, Ruben. You asked the question more than once. Don't spam my comments. Marwa said, how will humans have money if AI take all the jobs? Marwa answered that question already. Entangled, what's D9? Billionaire said, I feel like people should visit the C country so they can see what dictatorship really looks like. I got to be careful, Billionaire. This is TikTok. Remember what app we're on. Billionaire said, yes, I'm glad you found me on IG. HJU said, hunger is a great motivator. This is true. But motivator to do what, though, is the question. Styled by Terry, thanks for the follow. Tim Rockwell said, I like your middle of the road approach to everything. I wish the news media took this approach. Well, if they took this approach, they wouldn't make any money. So they can't do this. If I worked in the news media, I probably couldn't talk like this. Because whatever company I work for, they're going to try to push me to go one direction or the other. See, here I can do it because I'm independently doing this live stream. But if I worked at CNN, I couldn't talk. I couldn't be middle of the road because it wouldn't be interesting enough for the viewers of CNN. The viewers of CNN are expecting a lean towards one direction. That's why they watch. Like the viewers of Fox are expecting a lean in another direction. That's why they watch. So when you work for those platforms, you kind of got to do what the bosses tell you to do. But if you don't want to do that, then you got to do it your own. You got to do it on your own, which is what I'm doing. Live Free said, but I appreciate the compliment. Live Free said, America is a country of foreclosure, yet pay the light bill. That's America. What do you mean by that? Sarah said a robot will drive them. Yeah, pretty much. Big Billionaire said, my main business is in food. I stay focused on that business because I feel that it's AI proof. Yes, eating food is AI proof. It's future proof is what I would call it. Not even AI proof, Big Billionaire, but future proof. Future proof meaning no matter what happens in the future, people will still need what you do. People will always need to eat. People always need somewhere to live. Food, clothing, shelter are future proof skills. If you have some skill in food, clothing, or shelter, then you are future proofing your situation. And again, that's a very broad brush that I'm painting with, but they're true. Nobody said you are sharp today. Well, thank you. I wasn't sharp yesterday or the day before. Leah said, I very much dislike automated systems. Well, it's fine for you to not like them, Leah, but pretty soon a bunch of systems are going to become more and more automated. Now, there will be people, and for the next 25 years, there's going to be a bunch of people who still prefer the personalized system. Same way, there are still people out there who have landline phones, but they're eventually going to die out. And then nobody's going to get the automated system because they won't even know that they exist. No one knows such thing as an automated system. So our kids won't even know that certain things used to be handled completely by humans. They won't know there used to be a time that you went to the grocery store and you had to stand in line and you waited for the cashier to scan all your shit and put it in the bag for you. In 2080, there will be people who didn't know that that ever existed, because the only way to pay for your stuff is as soon as you put it in the cart, it automatically scans it and it just charges your card when you walk out the store. You don't even have to stand in line and scan anything. Every time you put something in the cart, it automatically scans that thing and adds it to your bill. And then you just get charged your card on file for everything that you put inside the cart. And you just take it to your car and you go home. That's how it's going to be. There will be no checkout lines. There will be no cashiers and none of that shit. Marvel said, what if you in human resources, will that be automated? Well, human resources is a human touch skill. So for now, no. Royalty said, will veterans lose their disability pay one day? I don't know. That's not the topic, not something I've looked into. Andrew said, I'm teaching my grandson how to communicate with people. Most important skill. Number one transferable skill is communication skills, or transferable, not person to person, but transferable from industry to industry from one person is communication. Marky said, will robots be able to cook like a chef? Well, you would have to ask a chef that question. And I don't think so, not yet. And I think any chef who thinks they will be should learn how to actually start selling those robots. Paul said, hairdressers and barbers. This is a good one. I think there will be robots that actually can do hair and cut hair. I do believe that will be a thing. But a lot of people go to their hairdresser or barber because of their relationship with the hairdresser or barber, not necessarily for the hairstyle or the haircut. So it's the personal skill that is going to keep the hairdressers and barbers employed, not necessarily the actual hair, the hairstyling. Andrew said, I ran out of space. He told me to get a trade besides the college education to save my life. Well, he was a very smart individual to tell you that. He knew. He might not have known for the same reasons that I'm talking about, that we're talking about here, but he was 100% right. Stephen Albert, appreciate you, sir. Crazy Old Nanu said, my software company facility management is helping trades in using AI. Yeah, it should be. I mean, everybody should use AI because AI will help you do your business faster. So people shouldn't reject AI because eventually it's going to overtake what you're doing anyway. One way or another is coming. Noel from Pleasant Hill, California. Good morning. Maddie said, all this technology, but I still don't have a flying car like the Jetsons. Yeah, I remember the Jetsons. It told us by the year 2000, we all be flying in outer space and push a button and Rosie the robot will come and clean your house. What happened? So the Jetsons oversold. They sold us on a dream that didn't happen. Maybe it'd be the year 3000, Maddie. Maybe the year 3000 will be living like the Jetsons, where you push a button and your automated robot, Rosie, comes and cleans the whole house. And you get into your little space car and you fly through the air to go to work at Space Lee Sprockets. And then you push the button and you come back. And your wife can go to the mall over there. And your son goes to the school in the air over there. And your daughter goes over there. And yeah, so maybe the Jetsons is the year 3000. I thought it was the year 2000. But I guess it'd be year 3000 we get the Jetsons. Nobody said you're on point all day. Speaking of your attire. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, nobody. That's what I was referring to too. Again. My attire wasn't on point just today, but I appreciate it. Big Billionaire said absolutely not. So Billionaire says no, that robots will not be able to replace a chef. I think people like a home cooked meal by a person. I mean, one of the reasons people like chefs is because they know that a person made the food. That's one of the reasons why that's one of the reasons people go to high-end restaurants. That's the reason people hire chefs. That's the reason people do catering. They buy catering because we want to know that a human being made that food. And when we don't care, we go to fucking Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. But when we want to know a human made our food, we want to get it from a person. I want to know who the person was that made that meal. And that matters to people. And again, food, clothing, shelter, I don't think that one's going away. So are there machines that can make food? Yes. I told you about it. There's a thing called the Flippy. It makes French fries at like Burger King. But there's a big difference between Burger King and going to the Capitol Grill, some high-end restaurant. So these are two different things. So it depends on what level of food we're talking. For people who are asking about, can a robot make food? Technically, yes. But do you want food made by a robot? That's the question you should ask yourself. So Philly Viv said, what advice do you give your children about their future? I'm worried about my grandchildren's future. Well, exactly what I told you about. First of all, future-proof skills, episode 3137, Philly Viv. Have your kids listen to that. Future-proof skills. Episode 3137 is a 4-part series. So that's the first episode, 3137. And I did a whole bunch of episodes talking about this stuff. I'm always talking about where I see things going. And if you just tune into my podcast, just listen to every episode that I put out. That's what, if I wasn't around and I had to have my future generations learn from me, I would just say, listen to every episode I ever put out. Every episode I ever put out, just listen to that. That's all the education you need. I wouldn't even need to send my kids to school. If I could just reteach them everything I've ever recorded on my podcast alone, they're going to know everything they need to know. So that's my answer to your question. And it also depends on how old your kids are and what they're trying to do. Now, if they're 6 or 7 years old, it's kind of too early to tell for them or you to tell where they're going. So you want to start them off with just the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic, of course. And then I would say personal development, communication skills, and sales skills. Those 3 things you're always going to need, because you will always be around: personal development, communication skills, because you're going to deal with human beings, and sales skills, because when you can sell, that means you can influence people and you can get your way. And in life, you have to be good at influence. You got to be able to influence other people into certain behaviors. That's called selling. And if you cannot sell, you are in a precarious position. That's for all human beings. O-Dog said, I was a manager too, but I was an ethical manager. Never piss where you eat. Well, I wasn't eating that much. I mean, it was Foot Locker. How much were you eating at Foot Locker, O-Dog? Ain't that much to eat. I knew I was getting out of there. I knew I was about to, that was my first job out of college. So I knew I was about to go play pro ball at some point. So if Foot Locker, fired me randomly one day, that'd be okay. I ended up quitting, but if they fired me, I wouldn't have lost any sleep over it. It was just Foot Locker. For me, that's all. It didn't matter. Nathan Don said, yeah, they oversold. Not like you always get back from the bathroom faster than to say you're gonna. Yes, this is true. Andrea said, relationship exactly what my specialized hair business has sustained to me beyond the trends. Yes, the relationship is what keeps customers coming back to a business. It's not the prices or even the products. Togany said, Jetson and Simpson's job for the fathers is just pushing a button. That's a good point. Yeah, and the Jetsons, all George Jetson does is sit there and push a button. And Homer Simpson as well. They just sit there and push a button. You are right about that. That's a good point. Live Free said, Dre, you're leaving a wonderful legacy. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Philly Viv said, my youngest grandchild is 16. He wants to be a YouTuber. I'm glad you made this comment, because my sister has children. She had children before I did, and she has a daughter. She has a son in college now. I think he's in his 2nd year of college right now. And her daughter, my niece, she just started college. I believe right now she's in her freshman year. But maybe like 4 or 5, maybe more than that, 6 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, my sister texted me and said, hey, my daughter, your niece, found you on YouTube. She was talking to me, found you on YouTube because she wants to be a YouTuber growing up when she grows up, et cetera, et cetera. She's in college now, so who knows? She still has the idea. But this is the thing now, Philly Viv. That's the thing. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber. So when we were growing up, those of you who were born in, let's say before 1990, maybe 1995, we all wanted to be what? Lawyers, doctors, firefighters, basketball players, president, TV hosts. We wanted to do things. We wanted to actually do stuff that didn't involve a computer, because that wasn't a thing. Who could have a job on a computer back then? That wasn't if you had a job on a computer, you were actually like a computer engineer or a programmer. Nowadays, kids, they want to be TikTokers, influencers, streamers, YouTubers, because that's what they see. And there are popular people doing that who are allegedly making a lot of money. The problem is most of the people the problem with that is that is the entertainment space. And this is the issue for black males where I come from, in the hood where I come from the hood. A lot of young black males say, well, I'm going to be a rapper or an athlete. The problem is only 1% of people who try to be a rapper or an athlete actually get a career being a rapper or an athlete. Only 1% of people even make it to the career. And it's the same thing when it comes to streamers, YouTubers, influencers. Only 1% of people get to the point of being able to make a full-time income doing that, even though it seems like everybody's doing it, but everybody's not doing it full-time. And not everybody's going to make enough money for that to be the only thing that you do. Whereas lawyer, doctor, school teacher, firefighter, police officer, everybody who tries, as long as you pass the basic requirements, can get a full-time job doing that. You can take care of yourself and a family with that job. So as a higher percentage of people who actually try make it in those spaces. Let's say 60 to 80% of people who try make it in those spaces and can make a full-time income doing it. Whereas athlete, rapper, or entertainer, 1% of people who try actually make it. And the issue, it used to be only for young black males were trying to do this 1% thing and not thinking about any other option. Now you got everybody doing it. Now you got ladies doing it, white people doing it, Latin people doing it, Asians ain't doing it. Asians, their parents don't play that shit. It's like, no, you're going to school, you're going to be an engineer, and that's that. Or you're going to be a doctor, and that's that. I'm kind of being hyperbolic, but I'm also not. But nowadays, you have a lot of people from all different demographics trying to become entertainers. Influencers are entertainers. Streamers and YouTubers are entertainers. It is very hard to make it as an entertainer and make a full-time income doing it. But people talk about it as if it's easy. It's not easy. It looks easy because it doesn't look like the person's working that hard. But how do you get that level of popularity and how much time you have to put into it to possibly make it work? And the financial realities of it is not as pretty as it looks from the outside looking in. So making it as an entertainer is not easy, but people think it is. So Philly Viv, I wouldn't say you probably can't steer your grandchild in a different direction. He's 16, right? So he's not going to have grandma telling him what to do. But what you can do is open his mind to other things and help him understand that you want to have a diversity of skills, because right now, what's happening in the entertainment space is that now you have AI influencers, OnlyFans. You got AI girls on OnlyFans who are usurping the money that used to go to human girls on OnlyFans. Now you got AI girls. AI girl is more consistent. The AI girl got better quality pictures, and the AI girl can stream 24 hours a day, whereas an actual girl can't. So you're starting to get AI influencers. So there may not be such thing as just humans being influencers. It might be a bunch of AI influencers being run by people who know how to program the robots. So if your grandchild wants to be a YouTuber, what he should do is learn how to program AI humans, and then he can have a whole farm of 100 YouTubers that are not even real people with 100 different YouTube channels, and they're all making money, and he's collecting all the money because he's the brains behind that. That's the next wave. It's like Wayne Gretzky saying, skate to where the puck is going. That's where it's going. Leah, thank you for telling everybody to put the heart up. Yes, thank you. Rick Thomas said, I missed you this morning. Medical appointments going on. Well, I'm glad you're here. Live free. Appreciate you. True Alumni said, nothing is easy. Being a doctor or lawyer isn't easy. No, of course it's not easy. What I'm saying, True Alumni, is that if 100 people try to become an influencer and 100 people try to become a lawyer or a doctor, which one is going to have the higher success percentage? Of course, you know the answer is a lawyer or a doctor, because everyone who passes the bar is a lawyer. Everyone who passes medical school is a doctor. I'm not saying they're easy to go through, but there's a higher chance you make it as a lawyer or doctor than the chance that you make it as a famous streamer. That's what I'm saying. Even though it looks easier to become a famous streamer. That's the reason why more people try to do it, because it doesn't look hard. If you ask somebody, what does it take to make it through law school or medical school, they're going to tell you that shit is hard. It's hard. You got to study. You can't have a relationship. You can't go to parties. You can't have friends. You can't do anything. You got to be studying in the books and in the library all day, every day for X number of years. I've heard the stories. But if you do it, there's an 80% likelihood that you make it to the other side. You can do everything right as an influencer and never make it. Telemetric dude said, off topic, I love listening to you. Well, that is the topic, so I appreciate it. So, all right, I got to wrap this up. We got to wrap this up, folks. I got a call coming up at 11 o'clock. So I appreciate everybody for being in here consistently. Thank you to the moderators. Leah, thank you for reminding everybody to keep putting the heart up. Yes, please keep liking the live and putting the hearts up, folks. So we can keep this growing and we can keep building the audience. And I'm going to keep showing up, serving, and delivering on whatever topic we decide to discuss. I will be here tomorrow. I do these live streams 8 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. By the way, for those who don't know, 8 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Fridays when I do these lives. I'm always live on all the platforms. So TikTok is the largest one. That's where I'm getting all the comments from. But TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Rumble, and YouTube. The replays are always on YouTube. So y'all can find the replays on my YouTube channel. The link to my YouTube is in my profile. Power Presence Protocol. You want to work with me directly on mastering your influence, on shifting energy, commanding attention, and having 85% of the job done before you start talking when it comes to making sales, when it comes to winning friends, when it comes to influencing people, getting your way, and having everything done before you even start doing anything. That is the Power Presence Protocol. We all understand 85% of communication is not verbal. How about you master that 85%? Because that makes all the rest of it way easier. That's what I teach. It's called the Power Presence Protocol. Get into that by going to the link in my profile. We got a challenge starting on November 10th. We got a mastermind that is open right now. You can have me as your direct coach in either one. Go to the powerpresenceprotocol.com and I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great Thursday. We're out of here. Work on your game.